So let's talk about the border. The Texas Border Patrol discovering a stash house crammed with more than 100 illegal immigrants under guard by smugglers. It comes as the CBP reveals agents have encountered more than 900,000 illegal immigrants at the border this fiscal year. It's a 10-year high. That's not the gotaways, and I miss them. Those are the ones that we know about. Here to react, former acting DHS Secretary and Heritage Foundation visiting fellow Chad Wolf. Chad, I actually thought that they would find a way to make the adjustments after the surge, and maybe we wouldn't need Chad Wolf every other day to try to put this in perspective. But they're not. What was gained from the vice president's trip last week?
Well, I think very little in the short term. In the long run, we'll have to see if she had any success. But what we know is she continues to not visit the border. She continues to not focus on the crisis that is in front of her. Instead, starts talking about root causes of migration, which are years and decades away on trying to solve that problem. They have a crisis on the border. They need to solve that today, and that means implementing the rule of law, making sure that those that cross the border illegally have a consequence to that illegal behavior. They're not doing that. That's why we continue to see record numbers, and we'll continue to see record numbers throughout the summer.
A guy died over the weekend when he fell from the top of the wall. No one talks about that. We've got 5-year-olds walking around by themselves in front of the wall crying. No one talks about that, but a still picture, which was sad, of a girl crying next to her mom was something that was just plastered everywhere. Does the double standard really make your head want to explode?
Well, it does. Absolutely. You have the largest crisis going on that southwest border in over 20 years, and yet it's hardly being covered by the mainstream media and all of their allies. And I think that is a disservice to the American people. There is something significant going on with the human trafficking, with the cartels, the drugs, and everything that's coming across that border because of the policies over the last 4.5 to 5 months. It's not being covered. We're not talking about it enough. This is a threat to the homeland. It needs to be addressed. They need to start doing their job.
So here's the thing. It's up. The traffic's up 674%. What I find fascinating is that they couldn't control the message overseas. The Mexican president said that Joe Biden's a migrant president, and that's the message that got out. The Guatemalan president said something similar, that when he first took over, they brought back his comments from the campaign trail. And they said immediately, when they started getting rid of some of these policies, the Coyote started reporting to start bringing people across. So you can't control that. It's not Chad Wolf's opinion. It is what's being relayed down south. And the other thing, Chad, is that it's not just Guatemala. We have over 100 countries coming across, from Haiti to Romania.
Well, absolutely. You see numbers of individuals coming across that border, not just the Northern Triangle, from about 25 or 35 different countries. And that's a security concern at the end of the day. They need to address it quickly.
Right. And lastly, there's a strong feeling that this is exactly what President Biden wants. I actually see the chaos and the human suffering and don't think he wants this. How much is the script? And how much is just we don't know how to control it?
Well, I think this was by design, and you saw this from a number of decisions they took right after Inauguration Day. So this open borders policy is by design. The amount of numbers, the human trafficking, things like that, I think that's caught them by surprise a little bit, and they're trying to deal with that. But this idea of we're going to allow everyone to come into the country as they seek asylum and stay here, that is by design. Those are the policies that they advocate for.
Unbelievable. And now local governments are forced to do something not really don't have the jurisdiction to handle. Chad Wolf, thank you.